Hello everyone. A bunch of people asked me to make a video showing the curves that I use, so here's the video. So you can see my overlays in the lower right hand corner. I have my pitch yaw, and in the lower left hand corner I have strafe, and then vertical is on the left side above that. So let me just show you what my curves look like. For this patch I've done my curves in external software, but you can pretty much replicate it in the game by going to options, controls, and then you got to find the right joystick HOTAS, and then you would go down and you would find flight, flight movement and all that, flight pitch, yaw, all that. So this curve thing, that would be like the higher, the more curve you get, and then you can even like make custom points or whatever by clicking this. Yeah, but I'm not going to do it. And then your saturation settings basically make it more sensitive. So like if you set this joystick axis, if you set it to 50%, that means 50% of your joystick deflection would equal 100% output. And then dead zones are dead zones. That's just a little bit of wiggle room in the middle. Okay, so let me go into the software and show you. All right, so I use Joystick Gremlin by White Magic. He is a community member. And I'm going to explain what I use this for and why I use it after I show the curves, because I think most people just want to see the curves. So here we go. We've got, here's my right stick, right? So pitch and yaw, X and Y. So what I did was I did a sort of S curve this time. And the thing is, like, you can't do this in game. You can get the bottom part of the S curve, but you can't get the top. So I guess you can do a J curve. I'm not sure if that's the right terminology. But I think if you are in game and you're doing the curve, you're basically going to just be looking at this upper right hand corner. But it's reflected down here. So it's like the same thing. You're just like zoomed in on this part. So like in the game, you don't have this little S at the top. You just have like one curve, sort of like the motion that I'm doing like this, right? But I wouldn't say like this part at the top is really incredibly important. So I wouldn't worry about it. If you want to do it in game, it's not gonna like really make that much of a difference. But having a little bit more, it's really hard to explain what this is. Having a little bit more precision near the center, so when your stick is centered, is good for a lot of players. A lot of like what curve is going to work the best for you is not only going to depend on your hardware, but also on the patch, because ESP is greatly affected by what your curve settings are and your saturation settings. So, right. So anyway, I would say like if it weren't for this S thing at the top, this would be like maybe 1.2, 1.3-ish, maybe 1.3 for the in-game settings, sorry. So remember how I was showing you the numbers? Sorry, let me go back. So you go, right, so if you just wanted to put in like 1.3, right, it would probably be about, so most people on most patches, and again it depends on the ESP, do well with somewhere between 1.3 and 1.7, and this is like historically what I've found over the patches. So here's 1.7. Now some patches like people go way higher and all that, but that's up to you. Really, it's very much up to user preference. All right, so that's for pitch and yaw, right? Okay. So honestly, I think a slight curve for pitch and yaw is still the best way to go. ESP is really weird right now, so people are doing some really extreme things to try to make it not horrible. But for most patches, a pretty non-aggressive curve is really good. And I would ignore these dead zones unless you're using a force sensing stick. Okay, so now we get to strafing, right? So again, lower left-hand corner, strafe is how I control my translation, not my rotation, right? And you'll see like two little crosses there. The darker one is my my physical position of my input, and then the lighter one is what the curve is doing. So like basically it takes the physical position of the input and then it modifies it according to the curve, and so the game is seeing what the brighter of the two crosses in the lower left hand corner are, but my physical axis location is actually the darker one. So it's kind of cool that you can see both, right? Okay, so for strafe, if you're going like I do, which is speed limiter, oh, that was weird. Speed limiter, you know, I'm keeping it high. Basically, I put it at max, but you know, if you wanted to even put it at like half or something, so you want a lot of precision. Let me turn that chat back off. You want a lot of precision toward the bottom of the axis, right? Because that's where you're going to be doing most of your fine maneuvering, and less precision at the top. So like, I'll give an example here. So I can like eke forward, right, and get some pretty low speeds. And you'll see the difference in the lower left-hand corner between my physical axis position and what the game is seeing. And like I said before, that's my curve. So as I get hot, I got a lot of distance between those two because the curve is doing more to give me more precision. And then as I get higher, they'll start to converge. And so now that I get up here into the upper range, I've got less fine precision over my speed, but it's all one continuous axis deflection up to max. So that's why I like to do it that way. Right, so let me just show you what that looks like. All right, so I've got a way more aggressive curve here. I don't have the S at the top. I just have it going all the way to max. I have tiny dead zones on each side just to make sure that I don't, you know, accidentally end up slightly less than max, or, you know, I don't end up with a slight drift at the bottom. So yeah, so all the precision I'm getting at close to zero, like at the middle of my axis, is due to this very heavy curve right here. Because if you think about it, like this has got to go, for me, it's got to go from like 0 to like 12 something, right? So if I want to go exactly 50 meters per second, if I just have a straight line here, I'm not going to be precise enough to shoot for exactly 50%, or sorry, 50 meters per second. And it's the same thing for, this is lateral and longitudinal strafe. It's the same thing, right? So those are my curves. And unfortunately, like, there's I had to use this program to do this. I can't do that. You can go to 3.0 on in the Star Citizen curve, but it's not quite what I like it to be. So let me show you. I'll go to exactly 50 meters per second. Oh, there you go. So not really easy, but you know, it's possible, right? So you can find, and then I'll go to like tick marks. This is how I test to make sure it's precise enough, is I'll go to like tick marks and see if I can get to tick marks. Oh, see that? I overshot there because of, you know, it takes a while to speed up. There. See? So that's how I test the precision. And then I've got the same curve on, let's see. I control strafe vertical with the a CH Pro throttle head, analog thumbstick, and then I've got the same curve on that thing and the same dead zones. So like I said, like the equivalent of doing this in the game would be to put these dead zones in and then put your curve at 3.0. That's the highest you can do, right? So now I can get a lot of precision here at the middle of the axis, but I can also seamlessly go to maximum speed. And I don't have to worry about like messing with my speed limiter or anything like that. But I still do use my speed limiter when I'm going into land, right? I just take it down like this, and that just makes landing even more easy because I've got this massive curve and I've got the speed limiter low. So, okay. So now that I've showed what my curves are, I'll do an explanation of why I'm using, I guess I pretty much already explained why I'm using, let me just sort of cruise on in here, why I'm using joystick gremlin, right? So first off, yeah, because you can customize the curves a lot more. Let me just kill that speed real quick, sorry. Second, what it does is it creates a virtual joystick that has everything on it, right? So I'm taking all these different devices I have and I'm combining them all into one. And what that does is it makes it easier when I go from patch to patch and PTU to live and back and forth, and then like trying to do my control settings over and over again. Putting it all on one device makes it much easier because there's actually a swap. There's a joystick swap command you can do in the console. And that makes it way easier for me to just fix everything than if I had like, you know, four or five devices. You can see I got a lot of devices here. 4 or 5 devices, and then, you know, you can really only modify like the settings for some of them on like 4 devices, and the 5th one is just shit out of luck. Like, it's just way easier to put everything on one device, and it's a VJoy, and then I can control everything. And then also, you know, it's got basic macro functionality. So I've got a flare chaff combo on my right stick paddle. So I just pop this.
Chaff ready, flare ready.
And it pops a flare and a chaff, you know. So that's something I like. Here, let me. I guess I'm not really zoomed out properly, but yeah, so it does a flare chaff combo. So that's, if I go to the flare chaff combo. So that's the macro for that. That's pretty, you know, like stuff like that. It helps with it. So it just gives you more advanced functionality, more advanced curves. So that's why I've been using the joystick gremlin. And it makes it easier to have everything on one device for, I'll show you some console commands here. So I dumped a device information. So you see I've got like six devices here, right, including the VJoy. So the problem is that when you're doing like your curves and everything, it only goes up to 4, right? And then these things occasionally reorder themselves. And like, you know, that just drives me bonkers. So having it all on the like all of my curves and everything on the VJoy just makes it easier for me. Cool. All right. So hopefully that answered some of your questions. Sorry for the longer video, and let me know if there's anything else I can do to help people. But the basic TLDW, too long to watch, is for your pitch and yaw and roll. I recommend a light curve, 1.3 to 1.7-ish. And you should use as little dead zone as you can possibly use without it drifting. For your strafe controls, if you are intending to use high speed limiter settings, you're going to want more precision toward the bottom, because that's where, you know, a lot of the fine maneuvering for landing or, you know, mining or dogfighting or whatever it is. So you're going to want as heavy of a curve as possible on there, maybe even up to 3.0. And then you're going to want just as much dead zone at the bottom and at the top so that you don't drift and that you don't get stuck. For the top dead zone, you don't get stuck at some value that's, you know, like almost to 100%, but not quite. And then if you really, really want to curve it out for that strafe stuff, then use external software like Joystick Gremlin or Target or something like that. Cool. Let's see if I can end this with a decent landing. So here's my speed limiter really high. I don't know. Should I do it with or without the speed limiter? Maybe I'll try it without the speed limiter just to demonstrate how powerful having the curved out strafe is. So that's what I'll do. But with the speed limiter, it's even better. Maybe I'll have time to do both. So to get the comms to work, sometimes you gotta refresh it. And the refresh button doesn't work. There we go. So check it out.
Proceed to assigned landing bay.
I'm in coupled mode. I'm not using my speed limiter. So I'm going to show you how I can do this just because I got everything all curved out and I'm using analog strafe. If you use digital strafe, don't do this. It's not going to work. For the love of God. Don't forget my gear. Okay. Got a little bit of drift in. That's weird.
Landing gear deployed.
Might need to up my dead zone a little bit. There we go. 2.
Landing complete.
There you go.
Landing complete.
Launch complete.
But I come up off the pad as soon as... Alright, so now let's do it with the speed limiter and see if it's easier. Well, it'll definitely be easier, but see how much easier it is anyway. Alright, so still got my landing gear down. Yeah, I think I need to increase my dead zone on my strafe slightly to avoid that drift. Alright, so speed limiter is coming down to basically as low as you can get it. Look at that. Maxing out at 13. I'll have to actually raise it a little bit. Alright, so which landing bay are they sending us to? Do I have to do it again? Probably going to yell at me for blocking an active flight path in a minute.
That request has already been granted.
Okay, well, I'm just going to assume it's here. Obstructing. Maybe it's over here. Alright, well, whatever. I can still demonstrate this.
Warning, you are blocking an active flight lane. Please vacate the vicinity.
So, speed limiter really far down, and then I just do barely any down strafe.
Initiating ship storage procedure.
Oh my god.
For your safety, please vacate the area. Thank you for your cooperation.
Nope, I'm landing. Screw you guys.
Landing complete.
Alright.
Launch complete. Engines offline. Landing complete.
Sweet. Alright, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.